everyone. Welcome back to the Champions of Homecare podcast. We're so glad you could join us for another conversation about home care in Minnesota. I'm Jason Dorow with David Hancox. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm great, Jason. How are you doing today? It is an absolutely gorgeous day out there. I kind of hate to be inside on one of the last really nice weeks of the year that we're probably going to have because we know what's coming at us. So it's such a beautiful day out there. I kind of hate to be indoors, but good to see you and nice to be doing another podcast.
Yeah, capitalize on the fall weather while you can because we know it won't last forever.
That's for sure, unfortunately. But it is a beautiful, beautiful fall day out there. But before we get to today's interview, we want to remind all of our listeners about our most recent episode. We were joined by Gail Larson, an Accra employed caregiver, and Philip Cryan from SEIU, the union that represents healthcare and home care workers here in Minnesota. And they laid out the wage increases and other benefits that are coming in 2024 and 2025 for PCAs that are working with PCA choice providers in Minnesota. And they really brought to life what a huge impact these increases will have on the lives of our state caregivers.
Yeah, brought to life is a good way of putting it, David, because the conversation was incredibly informative. Like there's plenty of good information and directions for caregivers to access stipends and other things, but it was just a vivid conversation with personal stories demonstrating how PCAs really care about their career and the people they serve, more importantly. So we hope you'll go back and give that a listen if you haven't already.
Great. It was good.
Yeah. With that, should we get to today's interview?
Let's go, Jason. All right.
So today we are talking about the private pay program at Accra. And for the first time, we have a guest making a return to the show. So let's welcome Val Patino, Accra's Senior Program Director of Financial Management Services and Mental Health. And Val, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon. I'm very well. Excited to be talking about private pay services, which is a service that's very different from the other services that we provide with regards to payer source.
Well, it's great having you with us again today, Val. It's nice to have a repeat. You're our first repeat guest, so it's great to have you with us.
Honored.
Yes.
I feel honored. Thank you.
And also joining us today is Savanna Barrett, the FMS Program Supervisor here at Accra. So, Savanna, welcome to you as well.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So, Val, you started to make a few introductory comments about private pay here at Accra, and I talked over top of you briefly there. But for starters, what is private pay and what is the private pay program at Accra? And is it available for all kinds of home care services?
Absolutely. Yes. So just as you said, private pay allows folks to purchase home care services through their private dollars. So if their insurance doesn't cover home care services or they have no other payer source, those folks are privately paying for home care services such as caregiving, homemaking services, etc., through their private pay dollars. It's a wonderful, wonderful way for them to get some extra help in the home. And Accra helps you along the way with employee paperwork, with those tax filings. We're getting those W-2s out to your employees at the end of the year, and just helping you with the whole employment process as well.
So, Val, thank you for that description. And I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly. So if someone comes to Accra and wants to use private pay as a way of accessing services, they can literally choose the services that they want from Accra, and we create that opportunity for them using private pay dollars, correct?
Correct. They set the job description, they're training the employee. Accra's guiding them. We give them tools and resources on how to create job descriptions, how to have check-ins with employees, etc. But ultimately, they are choosing the services that the client needs.
So they're really just picking off of a menu of services that they choose that they want to have, so they don't have to fit into any particular category, so to speak.
Correct.
Wonderful.
Correct. Homemaking services, personal care services, errands, meal prep, etc.
That's great. So let's jump over to Savanna for a minute. Savanna, why do clients typically elect to choose private pay over other options?
Yeah, so folks who are typically choose to join our private pay program are folks who are in need of home care services, but maybe they're not covered by their private insurance or their long-term insurance. So they may choose to essentially purchase their home care services with their private dollars. We also have some folks who are currently in our FMS program. So they're on a waiver, they're receiving, on CDCS, they're receiving staffing hours, but they're maybe only approved for so many hours per week. So we have some people who have joined our private pay program to essentially purchase additional staffing hours. I have one who had a staff that they really, really liked, but the staff said they might need to look for another job because they needed more hours. So this allowed the family to keep the staff. It was kind of a win-win situation because the client was able to receive more hours this way, and they were also able to keep their staff by providing the staff additional hours by adding on the private pay hours.
Is anybody eligible to participate in private pay?
Yeah, so anybody who is in need of home care services and who is able to, who has the funds to pay for their home care services. So we have, a variety. We have a handful of folks in the private pay who they just need somebody to come in and check on them a few hours here and there, or even if it's just a quick, half hour to an hour a day or just a couple times a month. And we have some that are in more of need. But yeah, anybody who is in need of home care services and has those funds to purchase them can certainly join our private pay program.
And they can bill private insurance for that private pay, correct?
So we actually are not able to bill their private insurance directly. Our system just currently is not set up for that. We would need to bill the managing party, or if they have a separate payer set up like a bank trust or in some in some cases like a workers' comp agency. But unfortunately, we aren't able to bill their private insurance. It would become a much more complex program than we're equipped for at this time.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. Jason, any thoughts?
Given that arrangement, is there a difference in cost when people are working with private pay as compared to other services?
Yeah, so just kind of doing a breakdown of the private pay fees. So we do, there is a monthly admin fee that the managing party or whoever is responsible to pay. That is $150. And then we also have to bill 12.75% on top of whatever the employee's rate is. And again, the managing party does determine their staff's rate. So we would budget that 12.75% on top of the rate, and that's going to cover the payroll taxes, the workers' comp, and liability insurance. And then we would also charge a background study fee for every background study that we run on their behalf. So going back to your original question, how does it compare? So it really ultimately is going to depend on what the managing party chooses, how many hours they're looking to schedule their staff to work, as well as what rate of pay they would like to pay their staff.
Which was going to be, sorry, David, that was going to be my next question is that compensation and staffing, is that set by the client in this case? Do they get to decide how much their caregivers are paid in all instances?
Yeah, yep. So whoever is the managing party would establish their own employee's rate of pay. And then they would also schedule, they determine however many hours are needed. So we pay out the employee timesheets and then would bill the managing party the following month for however many hours were paid out.
Are there any services under private pay that are not allowable?
The managing party gets to determine types of services. The only thing that's not allowable is nursing duties.
Well, that makes sense. Sure. Sure. And Val, if someone is interested in private pay services, how do they get started? I mean, is there someone in particular that they need to be in contact with at Accra to get this
Mhm.
process started?
Yes, so that we have a team of navigators that can answer any calls and questions that you might have. They'll get you started with the paperwork and preliminary questions, and then would go directly over to Savannah. But they can email or call. The email is fmsintake@acracare.org, or they can call the direct line 952 4150.
Great. Wonderful. That's
Mhm.
pretty easy process.
Yeah, it is.
Jason?
Yeah, as we kind of wrap up this private pay conversation, I'm curious, do you two have any tips and tricks either for people already enrolled in private pay that could maybe make their lives a little easier, or tips and tricks for people that are exploring the opportunity to get into private pay?
Mhm. Yeah, we've had a few clients with various different backgrounds with needing home care services. So they'll call our office and just asking those exploratory questions, and we can really help guide you to see if private pay services would be the best. And ACRA really does try to make it as affordable as possible for you and walk alongside you. A great advantage that ACRA has is our job board. We have
Mm.
a list of caregivers who are looking for more hours, might be a great fit. So we would give you access to that. So you could interview those that you might be interested in learning more about working with.
Well, it's so interesting to hear about the private pay and to learn some of the details that you have both shared today, both Val and Savannah. It's just an example of, one more service that ACRA provides in this wonderful cadre of services that we currently offer, and to now make people aware of the fact that private pay is also available. Occasionally you come across someone, a person with a disability or their family members or whatever, who simply don't want a larger intrusion into their lives by Medicaid, Medicare, or some type of county case management service or something like that. They just want to keep it simple and private and to themselves. And this is a wonderful way to accommodate that desire or that need for those individuals who desire that type of service, that, whether it's, you want to call it a concierge type service or what, but
Mhm.
it really does make their lives perhaps a little less intrusive or a little less complicated. So it's really nice to know that ACRA has this service available in addition to its other wonderful services as well.
It's
So,
so true, Dave. I was
yeah.
just talking to a neighbor the other day, and she moved back from Hawaii to Minnesota to live with her aging mother
Mm,
and has lived with her for 3 years now and is contemplating moving her into memory care and thinks she can put that off for a few more years because she's got somebody coming into the home to help her out for a few hours a day with meal prep and just conversing with her mother, giving her that company that's much
mhm.
needed, helping her with daily cares, errand running, and it's just a perfect setup for them to get through the day and to
Yeah,
put off moving into a more permanent living situation, which is what her mother does not want. She'd love to stay at
yeah,
home as long as possible.
yeah.
So
It's
that's
just
just an example of what the service could provide.
no, and that's a great
Mhm.
example, and it's another wonderful example of a type of service that we can provide, that ACRA can provide, that actually prevents more costly, more reclusive, more isolating out of home placements. So it's
Absolutely.
wonderful. And Val, to you and Savannah, thank you both so much for being here today to share this information with our listeners about, private pay at ACRA. I think it's probably a program that a lot of people are not aware of, that it exists, or how to go about even getting connected to it. So again, thank you so very, very much for providing this valuable and informative conversation today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for
My
having us.
pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you both. All right.
Well, Jason, another fantastic conversation about a service that's available here at Accra that I'm betting that a lot of our listeners don't know a whole lot about, or maybe don't know, have never heard of it before at Accra. So it was really nice to have Val and Savannah here with us to share that valuable information. And I think we have some news and views, right?
We do. We can jump right into it.
Yeah.
So a couple of items. I think we'll start though with a new offering at Minnesota State Parks.
Oh.
So obviously we talk a lot about accessibility on this show,
Mm-hmm.
and the state of Minnesota is expanding a program to make state parks more accessible for people with disabilities. So
Fantastic.
there are now 13 state parks that have all-terrain track chairs. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, which I personally didn't before learning about this, just Google all-terrain track chairs Minnesota. You'll get a visual.
Mm-hmm.
But they're electric-powered chairs that can be used on designated trails within the park and can help visitors explore areas of these state parks in new ways, often on trails that are not suitable for typical wheelchairs. So they're designed to navigate mud and snow and sand. They can even climb up inclines. So things that people who get around in wheelchairs normally couldn't do within the parks. They're available year round in some locations. Other places just have them perhaps during the summer. So we know people are going to be more antsy to get outside once the summer rolls around, but you still have the chance to use them here during winter.
Mm-hmm.
And a little extra good news, there's no charge. So you'll need a state park vehicle permit to park your car in the park, but no charge for the track chair. You just call and reserve it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And given that about 8% of Minnesotans have a mobile disability, this can make the state parks more accessible to a big part of the population that couldn't previously navigate their way around.
I have a friend who has a pretty elaborate wheelchair that he uses, and he actually has adaptations that he can make to his chair. He can pop off the standard tires on the chair, and he can put on enlarged tires like you see on some of these bicyclists that have the really large, I don't know what they're called, but there's really large kind of balloon tires on their bikes for alternate terrain. But he can also pop on these tracks. And it's almost like a bulldozer type track, that allows them to go on all these alternate terrains. So it's nice to know that the state parks have that available now. Thanks for sharing that, Jason. We also wanted to share some update on Minnesota Health Insurance open enrollment, because right now it's in effect in Minnesota for all of the health insurance marketplace programs. The open enrollment period runs through January 15th of 2024. But if you want your coverage to start on January 1st, you need to enroll before December 15th. Let me say that again. If you want your coverage to start on January 1st, you need to enroll before December 15th. If you enroll after December 15th, your coverage would start on February 1st. The insurance marketplace is called MinSure, and you can learn more about that by going to minsure.org. So that's MNSURE.org. The website will also allow you to compare several private healthcare plans with the help of certified brokers, all free of charge. So we encourage you to take advantage of that resource if, in fact, that is a need that you have. So it's a couple of good points of information there for listeners to be aware of. I'm really excited about the additional access to the state parks. I'm so glad you shared that, Jason. That was good information. So, any final thoughts, Jason?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm so glad that Val and Savanna could join us today. I thought it was another great example of self-direction, which was a focus of the conversation the first time Val came on and talked about FMS with us. Seems like another great example of how Accra and this private pay program helps people lead more self-directed lives.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to know that our listeners are gathering some wonderful information from the podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Jason?
So long.